Hi, it's Jason. I'm here at Fraser Valley Rose Farm. I've said some things in the past about the right season for pruning your roses, and I think the main thing I've said is wait. Wait until after winter. Go to late winter, early spring. That's when you should do your structural pruning, because then you can see all the damage that winter has done, and you're taking the lowest level of risk on your plants. Alternately, for those that are once blooming roses, you might want to wait until after they bloom. That way you don't sacrifice blooms for the season. So that window for pruning is usually from late winter all the way through summer. Then you stop, in my climate, around August, late summer, so that you can allow your roses to harden off. So you might think, given all of what I just said, that my topic video, the one I'm making today on fall and winter pruning of roses, all I would do is say, don't do it, do a little mic drop and walk away. And while I admit that would have a certain amount of style, I'm going to need those. Because there are some times in the fall and winter when you might want to do some preemptive pruning to safeguard the condition of your plants. Take this long awkward stem here, for instance. At the first sign of wind, this is going to rock back and forth until it breaks at the base, or alternately, if snow comes, it's going to bend down to the bottom and break as well. So the only alternative I have to protect the condition of the mother shrub is to snip it off so it won't do those things. I'm going to give you some more examples of some pruning and cleanup I would attempt this time of year, but first let's talk about that all-important issue of timing, and it's very climate specific, so you'll have to know a little bit about your own area. In my climate here, we're within about 2 to 3 weeks of our first frost of the season. Usually when we start having that winter weather, we can have windstorms, we certainly can have a freak incident of heavy snow early on, so if I wait too late, I actually can miss the mark and have that damage done before I have anything to do about it. But if I go way too early, let's say I did this pruning in, say, September, early September, the plants may get the wrong signal from that pruning and they may actually attempt to put on more growth. So I've waited. I didn't prune from August, I left it September and most of October now. So my plants have had about 2 full months to rest without any pruning done on them, and we have seen some cold temperatures. Having those initial cold temperatures gives the signal to your roses to stop growing, and so the pruning that I do right now is far less likely to bring on a new flush of growth than it would have a month ago or 2 months ago. So it's a game of chicken. I want to get as close as I can to those early winter storms and those early cold temperatures to discourage the plants from going into fresh growth without waiting too long. This rose, Delaney Sisters, is a good example because it looks like it really has an awkward gangly habit and put on a ton of these outward facing shoots or upwards facing shoots towards the end of the season that would definitely put it at risk going over the winter season. So I'm just going to give it a chop down. Something like that addresses the issue. It brings this stem back down into the size range of the rest of the shrub. I'm going to take care of this one here, this guy here, this one here, and finally this one over here. Now here's a question, should I strip off these spent blooms on here? And the answer is, if I have time, yes, I'm going to go ahead and cut off those spent blooms and deadhead the shrub. If those were a little further along, already to the stage of rose hips, I might leave them on for the wildlife over winter, but as for now, any petals and spent blooms that are left on there is just going to encourage some rot in the shrub. Not something I have to do, but something I could do right now. I also probably will be stripping the leaves off of this over the winter. Right now there's so much on there, I'd rather let it get hit by a little bit of frost and knock some of those leaves off and make my job a little bit easier. Let's look at a second example together and you can tell me whether you think I should be pruning anything off of this. Now my answer is no. Actually, it's pretty compact, it's pretty even all the way through. I do see a little bit of foliar disease on the inner leaves. That's not uncommon this time of year. So I'll leave that for when I either do a winter cleanup or I'll just do it at the time of the spring pruning. So that's no problem. Same time at the spring pruning, I would be taking off any of those hips or spent flowers that overwintered on it. And just speaking of fresh new growth that becomes more vulnerable to winter damage, I do see one on here, a sort of a late shoot that might actually succumb to winter damage, but that's not bad. The total shrub has a lot of wood that will make it through, and one stem that is a little bit unwisely shooting out this late in the season. Okay, third example, and why don't you tell me what you would do with this one here. That tallest stem, just for scale, is about 8 feet tall, which probably puts it above the point where I think it would be safe for the winter. Even those spent flowers at about the chest height there, 4 or 5 feet tall, are probably a little bit tall for it, so let me give it a bit of a trim. There you go, not going overboard, just brought the whole thing down to a more manageable height so nothing gets damaged during the winter. Probably about 4 feet here is where it's ended up. Although a significant amount of material may have to come off to safeguard the plant, this is not meant to replace your spring pruning. And in fact, it does open it up to some sorts of risk. The new spot that you've cut here becomes the new position on the plant that is more vulnerable to winter damage. It used to be up higher on that stem, now it's where you've cut it. If the stem is long enough or gangly enough that you would consider it, but you have something you can tie it to, in this case a front archway in my garden, then I can secure it up there and I don't have to cut it off. But looking at this one that goes out this direction, there's no way I'm getting this to bend back onto the archway there. So I'm going to take it down to safeguard the shrub so it doesn't split off and break at the base. All right, hope that answers some of your questions on fall and winter pruning. If you have any questions, please drop those down into the comments below the video. I'll see what I can do to help.